Junk Food Dinner 359. Submitted to you without any recommendation as to belief or disbelief. There is a fifth dimension beyond that which is known to man. It is the middle ground between cartoon monkeys and schlitzies, between rats of humans and sweetmans. It is an area which we call the Junk Food Zone.
But in just a moment, Peter Vollmer will ply his...
Welcome back to the Junk Fudge Schlitzy. The next episode of the Schlitzy Zone that we're doing is from Season 2. It's called Nick of Time. It stars William Shatner and a lady who are driving through beautiful, sunny Ohio when their car gets broken down, so they have to take it in to be repaired. And in the time it takes to get repaired, they go to a little diner and they order like 2 sandwiches and 2 sodas and 2 ice creams, and their bill comes out to like $3. But while they're eating and stuff, their little napkin holder has like a little device on it where you put in a penny and you get a little card that tells you your future or whatever. They have these around. There's one of these near the hotel I stay at in Vegas where you give it like $1 and it tells you your fortune. So we've seen these. But, they ask, should we leave at such and such time? Should we leave the diner? And, it tells them in a vague sort of way, no. And then so William Shatner, he's having fun with it. He says, well, when should we leave? And actually, first, he asks if he's going to get a promotion at work. The thing tells him yes, so he calls his boss. And sure enough, he got the promotion. So then he starts getting a little bit more obsessed with it. He pays attention to when the thing tells them to leave. The thing tells them that there will be grave danger if they leave, before 3. So they kind of wait. And then, sure enough, once they do leave, they're almost hit by a car. So then William Shatner gets pretty obsessed with what this thing's telling him and keeps asking it more questions, keeps shoveling money in. The way he's shoveling money into this thing is a lot like, once again, like when I go to Vegas with the wife, that's how she shovels money into the slot machines. Just sweaty all across the forehead, manically pumping in coins. But so he's asking all these questions and he's getting vague answers. He's saying, did you know that there was going to be danger? And it says something like, all will be revealed, or what do you think? Or things like this. So since it doesn't get specific, it doesn't say, hey, William Shatner, you're going to get the job at, the mutual funds company or anything like this. So because it's so vague, we're not sure if the thing is really like kind of alive or if William Shatner is just being like very superstitious and taking its vagaries to mean something more. And things start getting really intense because of it. And I think that this is definitely my favorite episode of the ones we've talked about. I, for like a long time, for like 3 years, was obsessed with the idea of like fate versus free will and like are things predestined and things like this. And if I would have seen
did you come to a conclusion?
I think I went back and forth a couple of times. It was not in the cards for me to ever decide and know for sure. It was not predestined, but for a long time I think for the most of the time I was obsessed. I was on the predestined end of it.
That's where I'm at as well.
Yeah. If I would have seen this episode at that time, I think my entire brain would have exploded and this would have been my favorite piece of fiction ever. And I probably would have pored over it and watched it over and over. It's so good. I think William Shatner, like, he gets a bad rap. People say he's a bad actor and stuff, but I think he's really good in this. I mean, he'd have to be to carry this. I mean, it's just him talking to a napkin dispenser for 25 minutes and it's riveting. So, I don't know, maybe he got worse at acting as time went on, but I think he's really amazing in this. I think, also at one point, he tells his girlfriend or wife or whoever that she treats him like a retarded child. And you can't say that on TV these days. So I like that line. I think this is really great. Like, I love these questions of, is it predetermined? Like, is it not? Are you looking so far into like these vague answers that you're losing your mind? Sort of like, the way people do with like astrology or something, like, or is this little clown-faced napkin dispenser like really trying to help you in life and tell you when not to get hit by cars? Like, I love it all. There's like, you can maybe extrapolate that there's like political allegory at some point in this. I think there's like just so much here, and it's so great. This is another one of those that works on those like weird, heavy, like metaphorical, philosophical levels, and just as a straight story. And so I think it's pretty perfect. I love this. What do you guys think?
Yeah, Shatner's kind of got me all mixed up in this, to be honest, because like you said, he puts in a pretty good performance here, and especially as he gets more and more obsessed with the genie, I kind of bought into it. Like I thought he did a really good job at that point where he has to go back to the diner, and he sees that there's some ladies sitting at the table where the genie is, so he can't get to it right away, and he's giving them like the mean eye for a second, and I love that little bit from him. And man, young Shatner, unbelievably handsome, this man. I'm not sure if anybody's pointed this out, but what a good looking man Shatner was. But I do have to point out, the man turns down a chicken fried steak not once but twice at this diner. That seems a little bit questionable to me. So
yeah, I thought that part was like pretty far fetched, even for being the Twilight Zone.
Yeah, I mean, I know that these are tales of the supernatural, but it's a stretching credibility, I think. But yeah, he's pretty good in this. I also thought it was fun that this is hopefully going to serve as some kind of an official preview for my upcoming trip to Ohio. I'm not sure if all the diners there really do have these little devil genies in them, but hopefully if we go to a Skyline, we'll see something along this line.
Yeah. A couple years ago, this company made like real deal replicas of these with like actual napkin holders that dispense cards and everything. And they were like $300. And I was very close to buying one.
I have a story about that one when it's my turn to talk, but I'll wait till all you guys are finished.
Ooh, exciting. That's an exciting build-up here. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things to like about this. I like the fact that the Twilight Zone goes out of its way to specifically label Ohio as one of the darkest places in the Twilight Zone. I thought that was fun. Yeah, and I don't know. I love how the music and the lighting in this seem to get dimmer and darker throughout the episode. As he gets more and more unsettled, things just seem to be a little bit dimmer. Because the episode starts off on this real nice, bright and cheery note where they're like strolling through town, and the way that it turns, I thought was great. I think the diner set looks really cool. I like that skinny, tall, old guy that works there. I thought he looked like a character out of Twin Peaks or something. So I thought this was a lot of fun. I would like to posit a theory here that were this remade today, if there was like a Twilight Zone on the WB or something today, and we got our millennial reboot of this, I'm pretty sure that you'd have to like relocate this to like a Pan-Asian fusion restaurant with fortune cookies. And if so, even as lame as that sounds, I'd still be into it because I like this fate versus choice discussion. And yeah, it brings me back to my early 20s where I spent a long time trying to grapple with the concept of hard determinism, something that I think still plagues me. So yeah, this is great. One of those really nicely constructed plots, that I think Twilight Zone can deliver that I usually are lost on me, but this one I thought was great. I do think it's kind of weird that it seems like a lot of these tales of the supernatural that we're going to talk about tonight don't actually have a supernatural twist at the end. And this one, I mean, I guess depending on how you read it, it wasn't really a supernatural twist, but I thought it was really cool.
Yeah, this is one of my all-time favorite episodes. As Mike and I have talked about off the podcast, a lot of people know the William Shatner "There's Something on the Wing of the Plane" episode, but I think this is the best Shatner Twilight Zone episode. Like you mentioned, he's really good in this. He turns up the intensity gradually, and I don't know. I think it's really cool. Love the Mystic Seer, one of my favorite, just like iconic things from the Twilight Zone in general. Really love it. Police Chief Clancy O'Hara from the Batman TV show as the guy that plays the mechanic. So that's cool. Yeah, and just like you guys mentioned, I like the turmoil as it builds between the husband and wife. I mean, at first she's, they both kind of think it's a fun little game, and as Shatner gets more and more obsessed, you can see the wife's concern grow and grow. And I think she does a really good job as well. I mean, Shatner's good, but I think she also does a good job of, reacting to him and appropriately kind of getting more and more concerned that this little novelty card thing at a diner is, taking on more relevance in their life than it should. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is a classic, and if you've never seen Twilight Zone episodes, this would, I think, be a good one to start with.
Yeah, this is my all-time bang counted all day vape favorite episode of the Twilight Zone ever of all time, and it's all, for all the reasons you guys already said, and I'm not 100% sure, but I feel like this is the only episode of the Twilight Zone that is vague like that. There's no concrete answer. It's just like you don't know if the machine is telling the future, or if it's all in William Shatner's head, and that's why.
Well, I think the ending. I mean, the fact that you get another couple that's suffered the same fate is an indication that it's the machine that's doing it.
Really? Do you think that?
Well, the way that I read it was that Shatner and his girl had made the choice. Like, we're gonna move on. We're bigger than this, and that really it was their own fears that was keeping them back.
Yeah, that's how I read it too.
Okay,
but yeah, I mean, even so, it's still, I think it's still vague enough. Like, I don't think it's that concrete. It's still like however you interpret it, and just because of that, it's always been my favorite episode, just because it's so unique, even in the world of the universe of the Twilight Zone, where, everything is, there's so many different types of episodes of the Twilight Zone, but they all kind of have that same very concrete theme, and this just seems like so much more vague than anything else they've done. That thing that came out, the real replica of the Mystic Sayer, I was at. That was the first. I think it was the first Comic-Con I ever went to. It might have been the second one, and it was the year that came out. And it was like when I was still kind of naive enough to not really know that stuff like that cost a lot of money. So like, because you see it, like, it looks fucking cool, but you're not like, you don't expect them to say that'll be $300, please. And so it was just like one of those deals where I was like, nah, dude, like, that is a lot of money. Like that is literally just like a fucking, like, a little, like, napkin dispenser, more or less. And so instead of spending $300 on it, I spent a little less and got about 80% of my foot covered in the Mystic Sayer's face. So, and that lasts forever. So, like,
wait,
I'll never lose. I got the face tattooed on my foot. So,
I thought you just like reared up and kicked the fucking thing off the table.
Oh no. Sorry for jumbling it up. But so yeah, so I have a tattoo of this because I love it so much. But yeah, this is, like I said, this is the greatest episode to me. So I'm glad all you guys liked it.
Yeah, it's definitely my favorite of the ones we talked about, and I am willing to wager that if I watched all of these, it'll still be my favorite. Also, it should be mentioned that this was written by Richard Matheson, the dude who wrote like I Am Legend and The Box and like a ton of other shit. He's the dude who told
The Box is a Twilight Zone episode.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's I think they did it in this. Yeah, they did it in one of the later seasons of this version, and they did it in the 80s version too. And then I ripped it off in creative writing class in freshman year of high school.
Yeah, that's the version that I've read, is your version.
Yeah,
creative writing
my version for freshman year of high school. Yeah.
Yeah, there's also a movie that the dude who directed Donnie Darko did of it. That's the only one I've seen.
It's fucking terrible. It's so bad.
Yeah, it's bad. I think I read the story at one point though.
But yeah, Richard Matheson has done a lot of Twilight Zone. He's like the main guy. Like, I think he's the guy who has the most best episodes, probably.
Yeah, I think he wrote another one of the episodes we're going to talk about later too, maybe, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
He also wrote Trilogy of Terror, if you want to see some of his less successful anthology writing.
Yeah, he wrote Jaws 3 as well, but he's also...
Really?
I
didn't know that.
Well, I think there's like 3 people who technically got credit, but he's like the dude who wrote like the first version or something. And also, he's the dude who had the idea to make Bill and Ted, The Excellent Adventure, a time travel movie. At first, it was just a slacker movie about two dudes in a band, and Richard Matheson was like, "Why don't you make them travel through time?" And then that happened. So, yeah, he rules. So yeah, the next episode that we're talking about is the Rip Van Winkle Caper or something.
Yes, that is it.
Okay. I only have Rip Van Winkle in my notes. I forgot to put caper, but I'm glad I remembered that word. This is about four dudes who have done a bank heist or some sort of heist. They now have a bunch of gold bars with them. They meet up at a cave in the middle of the desert, and their plan is to go into...
This is where you live. When I watched this, or when I picked this, I was like, I'm going to pick this one for Parker because this is where I imagine he lives. Am I correct?
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I could drive for like 45 minutes and be exactly where these dudes were. So yeah, it was very homey. And yeah, so these dudes go to a cave, and their plan is to go into cryogenic sleep for 100 years, and then wake up and then, have the spoils of their bounty, because by that point, no one will be looking for them or the gold anymore, they assume. So they get up after 100 years. They start walking around and thinking about whether or not they're in the future. And then they kind of pull a Planet of the Apes. You see that one of the dudes was killed, like a rock fell on him during being frozen, and he's just like a skeleton man now. So you can safely assume then that we're in the future. Like, they don't play any of that fast and loose stuff where are they in the future, are they not? They're firmly in the future, although nothing futuristic happens until the very end. But anyway, so these guys, it's, the three of them, then they start fighting over who gets the gold. Like, it's the desert and they're walking around. So one dude who didn't bring a canteen because he's a fucking idiot, he keeps buying water off the other dude for bars of gold. And at one point he just gets sick of it. So he smashes some gold over his head, and one by one, they all kind of drop off until it's only the one dude left with all the gold, and he's walking trying to get to town, and a weird kind of spaceship car that looks like that car Homer designed in that one episode of The Simpsons shows up, and the dude's like, "Hey, take me to town and I'll give you all this gold, it's real gold." And the dude just looks at him like he's weird as hell, and then he dies, and the guy goes back to his car to talk to his wife, and he's like, "This guy tried to give me gold. Can you believe it? It's worthless." and then it goes womp 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 womp. And yeah, I don't know. I didn't really like this episode. I thought it was it kind of played out like a parody of the Twilight Zone. Like, I wasn't sure exactly what was going to happen at the end, but I don't know. I figured it would kind of be something like this, but just the fact that it's yeah, gold is worthless. You did it all for naught. I don't know. It was a little, I don't know. It seemed more like a Treehouse of Terror kind of episode.
I'll wait for all of you guys to go around, and I'll reveal why I chose this one. But I'm loving what I'm hearing so far, at least.
But yeah, so I don't know. I thought it was kind of dumb, and also we'll talk about this later with another episode. But I really like the episodes that start out as grounded as possible and then get weird, and then the fact that this just starts out with dudes cryogenically freezing themselves in a cave kind of betrays that. You start out fantastic, so they kind of had nowhere to go, but I don't know, but I like the kind of theme of it, where it's you humans kind of arbitrarily assign value to things like gold when there is no inherent value, and I think that's a cool kind of thing to think about. So I mean, it's not a complete wash, but yeah, I think it's kind of a dopey episode. What do you guys think?
Well, I definitely think that you're right in that it jumps into the weird stuff too early, because I was still setting up my beverages and getting situated on my couch when they started getting into that cryogenic stuff, and I actually had to rewind to figure out did I miss something? What's going on here? But yeah, they barely explain it, and they just kind of jump into it. So yeah, this one is not my favorite either, although I don't think it's my least favorite of the bunch that we did. There's some stuff that I liked in this. I like the Death Valley location. I thought it looked really cool, and some of these feel either very studio centric or backlot centric, but the fact that this is all set in these wide open spaces, I thought gave it a cool feeling that was a little bit unique amongst this bunch of episodes. I thought that car was really cool. You know, the Homer Simpson car, even though it's completely silly, I thought that was really fun.
Yeah, I guess that's a reused prop from Forbidden Planet.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Yeah, it's got that very atomic age sci-fi feeling to it, and it's something that looks really silly now. And I wish that I had a way to go into the mind of a kid in 1959 or 1960 or whatever and see what their reaction would have been to this. Because like I want to know, like, was this ever just like cool and futuristic, or was it always really goofy and stupid? Because it just looks so hokey these days. But it's fun. You know, there's a lot of fun stuff in this. I think this is more Bernard Herrmann music recycled from the first season, but it sounds great. So I like that. And yeah, this is kind of a story that I think was done a million times by a million Westerns before. Like this whole thing where like, yeah, you know, these former allies are going to be pitting against each other because they're so greedy. And yeah, we've seen it before. But I don't know. I thought it worked all right in this. And this probably has one of my favorite appearances on screen from Rod Serling himself. Because I love the way, and maybe you guys can tell me whether or not this is the case. It seems like early on he would be more integrated into these scenes where he would actually be like in the same studio or in the same set as these guys. And later on, it felt like he was maybe just filming them at the beginning of the season or something in like a separate studio where they do like a whip pan and cut to him. You know what I'm talking about? Where in these, He seems like he's actually in it.
Yeah, he would start off like, on the set after they did the little, intro. And yeah, I think that's definitely the case.
Yeah, he wasn't in the first two episodes, right? Or the first season at all? Like, it was just like a voiceover in those episodes, if I remember correctly. And then he started showing up in season 2. Do I have that right?
I think he shows up in all of them.
Yeah, I think he's there at the beginning.
But these are the ones, like, this is the period where, like, at least for me, like, I felt like he's in it, man. Like, he's in the cave with these guys, chain smoking up a storm, and they're just ignoring him. And I thought that was fun to see him just, like, speed talking a recap at you while these characters are frozen in time. Yeah, so I don't know. It's not the best, but there's some fun things in Rip Van Winkle Caper.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't think this is an all-time classic, but I do like it. I think I like, because a lot of the Twilight Zone episodes are like Parker mentioned, very grounded in reality and then take like a weird twist, where this one feels very steeped in sci-fi, which I'm not opposed to. I'm a guy that likes a lot of cheesy 50s sci-fi movies, so I'm totally all right with that. And this had some cool elements. I mean, just the fact that this guy is some sort of genius with like cryogenics, and the thing that he decides to do with it is rob a bunch of gold and go into the future. Like, it seems like a pretty half-cooked plan to begin with. It
seems like if you had invented cryogenic stasis, you could like probably be a pretty rich dude without robbing banks. Like,
well, and the other dumb thing is like they throw away this vintage car. Like, that car is 100 years old. It's gonna be worth something.
Yeah, still drives pretty well. Nothing adds up.
Well, and that's the other thing. When they reanimate, the one dude goes crazy and like runs the other dude over with his car and stuff, and it's just like out of nowhere. And
there's also that great nonchalant sequence where they're all like, "Oh, hey, that one guy's dead."
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "Oh, he's just a pile of bones now. No big deal."
Right. And it's not like they were like, deep inside a cavern or something. They were just like within, like, as you first walked into this cave. Like, nobody's going to walk into that cave in 100 years. Like, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, logistics aside, I think this is still a fun episode. I like the performances in it. I really liked the one guy, Oscar Beregi. He was kind of like, he was the scientist guy. He was kind of the heavyset dude. And he's been in a lot of stuff. But I thought he did a really good performance in this. And even though he was, a dipshit that lost his canteen sometime along the way, and as a sucker, giving up these bars of gold, but it's pretty straightforward, pretty predictable. But overall, I think good performances and still a fun episode to watch.
Yeah. So I chose like a couple of kind of lesser known polarizing episodes of the Twilight Zone kind of on purpose, just because like if you're making a mixtape Or even if you're making a whole album, you can't put all bangers on there. You got to have some deep cuts, and you can't just have all singles. You got to have some meat and potatoes. This is like this isn't the best episode for sure plot wise. It's kind of dumb. There's a book called The Twilight Zone Companion that goes into like gory detail about how like everything the Twilight Zone was up against when it was being made. It was just like back then it was kind of the same story with Planet of the Apes, where like the more popular Planet of the Apes got, the less money they gave them to make the movies. And it was kind of the same thing with the Twilight Zone. And, and they're trying to do these like big, like sprawling stories in 25 minutes. So things like, cryogenic sleep is not really explained too well. They just kind of do it. And like, you're just supposed to be like, oh, huh. And I think that's kind of a charm to like a lot of episodes of the Twilight Zone, because it was a time back then where people didn't know shit from Shinola. Like people were so dumb back then in the early 60s. They didn't know all of the things we know now, and they didn't have all this vast knowledge of the world. So I think it's something you could get away with back then, where you could just be like, oh, of course, eventually we will have cryogenic sleep. And so, it wasn't a big thing. The reason I chose this episode mostly, though, is because it's a good display of one of my favorite elements of the Twilight Zone, which is truly despicable characters, just like complete characters you dislike completely. It's arguable that you can maybe hate all of these characters, but the main dickhead in this is like, he's the worst. He's the worst fucking asshole ever, and you just want to fucking strangle him the entire time you're watching this. And there's a few episodes of Twilight Zone that I think just do that great, and I fucking love it. And it's one of the very many episodes of the Twilight Zone where they do a lot with very little, because essentially the meat of this episode is just two dudes walking, and like there's no, there's just their desert. There's no props, nothing, just two dudes walking and talking. And that's what I've always admired about the Twilight Zone, is they get so much out of so little. Like they do these insane stories that have never been told before in like 25 minutes of time with no budget. And, and they hold up 50, 60 years later. And that's pretty incredible. So even though it's not the best episode overall, it does have like a lot of elements of what I admire about the Twilight Zone.
That's understandable. I do like episodes that, where they do a lot with nothing. Like, this, like you said, this episode is just like two dudes walking, and I like stuff like that. I'm a Linklater fan, so watching two dudes walk is like some of the most riveting shit to me. So with that, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to be talking about more Twilight Zones.
Thanks for visiting the JFD video store. We hope you enjoyed our burning hot takes on this week's selected movie. Check us out on iTunes or junkfooddinner.com for full episodes. The audio version contains 3 full-length reviews per week, topical news segments, and listener feedback. Great for long commutes, exercise, or surviving the impending apocalypse. Thanks to Chuck Linnington for the on-screen artwork. Email jfdpodcast@gmail.com or check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Tumblr, or whatever else is going on. We're probably there and wanna hear from you. Until next time, keep washing them dishes.
Kids don't really love Elliot Gould, I hate to break it to you.